So I've got a tournament coming up soon. I've got a bunch of lists that I've been thinking about. And yeah, let's go through them. Let's go look at the pros and cons. We'll talk a little bit about list building, how I like to list build for events. And hopefully that'll be something that is insightful to you. And maybe by the end of it, we'll know exactly which list I will be bringing. But before I get into those, as always, if you like what you see, please don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you want to throw some more support my way, you can join me here on YouTube as a member. You can join me over on Patreon. You can join me over on Streamlabs. Either way, you will get to see behind the scenes content. You will get to have a say in the kinds of content that I create in the future. You will get to see videos before they're released to everybody else here on YouTube. But yeah, without further ado, let's get into those lists and let's see if we can figure out which list will be the best one to bring so that I can dominate in June at Warhammer World. Okay, so this is the list that I was testing before the big April update went. This was, if you've seen, I was doing all sorts of things. Look at that. All sorts of things with Amazons, doing some really great conversion work. And then the update dropped and that messed up all my plans, basically. This is what I was working on. Basically the Slaan machine gun. We're going to be running out of a Hunter of One Sheet base. The reason for that is they do have the slippery reaction, so all of my skinks can effectively run disruption for enemy big fighter pieces, and they can run in there, they can get attacked, they can slippery out, they can do all these things. It's really good. We know that Hunters of One Sheet work at this point. Now, the update happened, and it kind of shook my faith in this list a little bit, but not so much that it's been taken off as a contender. The reason for that is the slippery update, whereby hunters can no longer use it to disengage if they are at 2 or 3 inches. I think it's a bigger blow than some people are saying, but to go hand in hand with that, they did get a bunch of points breaks. So a version of this list would probably involve less Munchie's Claw, less Alpha Moonstone Club, and a whole bunch more regular skinks, because we're sitting at 8 man at the moment, and you could push that out to a 9 or 10 man warband, and I think once it hits 10 man, you're kind of swarming the board with your Star Master, with Calthea, and I think the prospect changes quite a bit. But let's go through the list. So I've got the Star Master in here, 265, we're going to give it the Blessing of Strength to go +1 strength, makes it strength 5, suddenly it's wounding mostly on 3s instead of 4s, it's got 12-inch range, so ideally, you kind of just treat the Slaan as this static artillery piece that says, okay, I'm going to sit here 12 inches away, and I'm going to delete 1 or 2 chaff models every single turn until the end of the game, and by the end of it, you're basically going to have nothing left. Now, the Slaan Star Master does have the Cold-Blooded Commander double, which is really, really what makes it work. Cold-Blooded Commander, just as a reminder, if the Star Master kills something, you can use Cold-Blooded Commander to get a free move or attack action. When you're looking at that damage profile, you're going to be doing anywhere between 6 and 9 damage, which means it's very, very good at killing skeletons. Any kind of 8 wound chaff model, the Star Master will wreck through. It has a much harder time against 10 wound chaff models, and it has a much harder time against toughness 5 chaff models. But anything 8 wounds, it'll go through like butter. So you can attack with the Star Master, kill a thing, Cold-Blooded Commander, attack again. On a good day, you can kill 3 8 wounds chaff models out of 1 activation. And that is very, very good. It's almost crippling for some warbands if you manage to get that off. Now, the big problem with the Star Master is because it's so big, it's basically always shooting over terrain, and all of those toughness 3 models become toughness 4. That's not so much of an issue, but toughness 4 chaff models become toughness 5. And as soon as it becomes winning on 4s or winning on 5s, the effectiveness of the Star Master goes way down and it starts to have issues. Now that's why we need to try and maximize the amount of attacks that it gets and the amount of damage that it generates. Effectively, the entire list rides on the back of the Star Master being able to look at things and delete them off the board. Now, what are we going to be using to try and boost that? We're going to be doing Calthea Zandai, of course. Calthea Zandai famously gives things extra bonus attack actions or extra move. The extra move is very important for the Star Master. Some of the times you just look at it and go, oh, I'm just going to bonus attack all the way, get the extra damage in that way. Now, whether it's between getting a bonus attack on the Star Master, allowing it to shoot at things, or whether it's between getting a bonus move, moving the Slaan into a position where it's no longer shooting over cover, I would pick the bonus move any day, because going from wounding on 4s to 3s or 5s to 4s is massive for that piece, especially because it's effectively carrying your entire warband. That's why Calthea is super, super important for that. The blessing that I've chosen for her is the Blessing of Brutality. Now, the Blessing of Brutality gives her a 3 base damage. I think it goes very well with the 5 attacks. I played this a lot in the last event I went to, and suddenly going from a 5-4-2-4 to a 5-4-3-4, it's a big difference. You have enough attacks to make that extra base damage really do work for you. I kind of prefer that over the +1 strength, simply because you only have a 2-4 damage profile, and even winning on 3s, you generally tend not to put enough damage onto a thing to be able to kill it. And I prefer that over the +1 attack, because the 6-4-2-4 is very good, but I still think that Calthea has kind of the same problems, only having a 2-4 damage profile, that I just like it, right? Whether it's more efficient or it isn't more efficient, it feels a lot better for Calthea, and that's really why we are taking it. And the rest of the warband is fairly straightforward. We got the Skin Calth with Moonstone Club, gives it that triple hull bolus, enables it to run a little bit of disruption, and a bunch of Punchy's Claws because they are still the best. Now, I did say at the beginning that what you could do with this warband is drop the Punchy's Claws down, drop the alpha down to an alpha with Blowpipe, get 9 or 10 models in there. I think that's very valid, is probably the better way to go, I think, given the nerfs that Hunter's got to Slippery, but I think this is a very solid list. It's always done well for me, and yeah, I think it's definitely a contender. The next list, and I know exactly what you're going to say, that the man called Off-Meta Musings, and that's what his entire channel is based on, is bringing a very, very on-meta list with Vexmor, the current newest hotness in warcry. And how can I bring this? It's absolutely terrible. It's a travesty. My reputation is ruined. The real reason I've actually been looking at this list is because I've been doing a lot of Skaven conversions recently. If I bring up a boy, oh, this guy shows up terribly because he is mainly green and I have a green screen going on. But yeah, that's what we've been doing, and I really love the converting side of the hobby, and I'm basically using this as an excuse to put together a list for that. But anyway, Vexmor and friends. So I've been talking about Storm Vermin recently, and what the Storm Vermin get. Storm Vermin have a double. It's called Bodyguard, whereby they can use it, and then your opponent cannot target enemy fighters with the hero rune mark within 1 inch of them. There's all sorts of applications for this. I've been using it in very big lists with double True Blood, where you pop Bodyguard, the Bodyguard protects the True Blood walks up with the Bodyguard in place. It uses the net, the True Blood can't be attacked back, it's got 2 inch range, so it gets to attack with impunity. It's been doing real good stuff. And this is kind of the last version. It's a lot smaller, it's a lot harder to pilot if you want to get the most out of Bodyguard, but I still think it's pretty good. So we're using Storm Vermin with Rusty Halberds and Clan Shields as the core of the warband. I think at 80 points, they're very, very good, because they have 10 wounds, they got toughness 5, their range damage isn't fantastic, right? 2 attacks, strength 3, 2-4 damage profile, it is what it is. But they get Bodyguard, which is really good at keeping your heroes around. Now, one of the questions that you might ask is, how does a smaller warband like this stand up to something like the Machine Gun Slaan that we were just talking about, or things like Park, or things like that, whatever. That toughness 5 is really instrumental in this, because suddenly a Slaan is going to winning on 4s, basic, which cuts its damage down, and if it's shooting over a piece of terrain, which it should be if I'm playing properly, to be honest, it goes to winning on 5s. And suddenly a Slaan winning on 5s doesn't really do all that much damage. It's 6 attacks that it can push out in 2 shooting actions, while only going to average 9 damage. That's 1 crit and 1 hit. 9 damage is not enough to kill a Storm Vermin, and it really, really hampers the effectiveness of that Slaan. And then on top of that, with Bodyguard, you use the Storm Vermin to protect some of your more squishy pieces like Skabic and Lasavir, so the Slaan does not have the opportunity to just pick off things as it wants to. I think we are going to see, if what I think is right, and we do have a future of heavy shooting warbands, like high quality shooting warbands, I think we're going to be looking more at toughness 5 chaff to counter that, just because the amount of damage that they do is so much worse than it would be if they were toughness 3 or toughness 4. Who am I going to be taking to lead this warband? It's going to be Skabic Plagueseeker. Skabic will have 1 or 2 blessings depending on what I'm facing against. The event in June is using Divine Blessings as they are written in the book, which means that they are flexible blessings and I'll be able to change them depending on my opponent. So this means that Skabic is either going to get a bonus strength or he's going to get bonus crit depending on who I'm playing against. I get bonus crit if I'm playing stuff like Stormcloaks, because bonus strength, all the strength in the world, is not going to be helping me when I only cap out at strength 4. Now Skabic is, if you look at the character himself, he is fairly average, 4324 damage profile. Let's say he's 4424 because that's what we are going to make him. What Skabic has going for him is his Unctuous Citations triple. That triple is awesome. It's actually busted. And I'll tell you exactly why. Unctuous Citations means that he can pick a friendly Skabic's Plate Seeker fighter within 6 inches. That fighter gets to make either a bonus move or a bonus attack action, and then Skabic gets to copy whatever that action is. Now, the way the ability is written, it is not written visible friendly fighter, it is written friendly fighter. Fighters aren't visible to themselves, but friendly fighters can use aura abilities and other different abilities on themselves. So what Skabic does is he tells himself to attack, or he tells himself to move, and then he can do it again. So on a triple, he either gets 2 free attacks or 2 free move actions. This is curtailed by the fact that he is only a 4424 damage profile guy, so there is a maximum amount of damage that he can do, but if he is looking at a chaff model, it will die because he just swings with 16 attacks and they fall over. Eventually you go death by 1,000 paper cuts and things die. So that's why we're bringing Skabic. Interesting thing about Skabic, which I keep on forgetting and I need to use more often, is that he still has lead from the back, which is really good, especially when comboed with stuff like Vexmor, with Lasavir, and with the Storm Fiend, who have just very good basic attacks. Now, talking about Vexmor and Lasavir, here they are. They're the new hotness. I'm going to preface this by saying Vexmor is not as busted as people say. Is he undercosted? Yes, he is, most definitely, for what you are getting. You always have to put an extra attack into him, so he will always have the Blessing of Ferocity, and you always have to throw dice at him if you want to make him half decent. So I've heard people compare him in terms of bustedness to a Chimera. I've heard him compare him to like Plague Bearer spam, all of this, but he's really not. In effect, he's an Annihilator Prime for Chaos. That's kind of what he is. He fulfills that same role. He's fairly tanky. He's got 25 wounds. He's got toughness 6. So he can stick around. The thing is about Vexmor is I find he is feast or famine. He will either do everything for you, and you will roll your crits, and you'll do like 30 damage to a thing and knock it over, or he'll do nothing because he's basically got 2 attacks, or 3 if you throw a double into him. So under normal circumstances, he's doing like 5 or 10 damage, and that's basically it on an attack action, which, considering the kind of press that he gets, I think it's fine. It's okay. Now, I'm also bringing Lasavir. The reason for that is that the Thricefold Discord have a very good reaction that they're allowed to do. It's basically a free move or free attack action when another one of them dies. So we want to take a fighter that's going to be in there and fighting, and then if it dies, Vexmor goes, haha, time for me to move. So that's how we're going to be taking Lasavir. Lasavir's stats are not all that good. A 6-3-2-3 damage profile means that you get countered very easily. But she does have a triple, and her triple is real interesting. So she uses a triple, she gets a bonus attack action, which is fine, she's got 6 attacks, very good. But the target gets -5 toughness, so on average, she will be wounding that thing on 3s. Which suddenly, with 6 attacks, means that 4 of those attacks will hit, on average 1 will crit. So we are looking at 9 damage out of that bonus attack action by itself, maybe even more if I manage to do extra things. I would really, really love to be able to boost Lasavir with something like bonus extra base damage, but there are just no points in this. I need the flexibility to be able to choose to take Strength or Savagery on Skabic, so that kind of means that I'm stuck with just a normal Lasavir. But you know what, that's not bad. You throw enough dice at something, eventually it will die, and then even if Lasavir dies, she's only 135 points, she falls over, we go Vexmor, Vexmor gets the bonus attack, Vexmor gets the bonus move. Pretty good. The last interesting option that I'm exploring in this is the Storm Fiend with Warp Fire Projectors. It's 240 points. A 3-4-4-8 damage profile is pretty good. It's not amazing. It does have that range profile at 8 inches, 2-5-3-6, which I kind of like. It's strength 5, which means it wins most things on 3s. Very much like the Slaan option that we've been looking at already. It's basically the same stat line as Quiet Pock. I like having that option on the Storm Fiend. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be buffing the Storm Fiend with an extra attack. So we're going to make it a 4-4-4-8. 270 points with that Blessing of Ferocity. And most of the questions revolving around that for me anyway are, do I take the Blessing of Ferocity on the Storm Fiend with Warpfire, or do I just spend 270 points and buy a Storm Fiend with Grinder Fists? The Storm Fiend with Grinder Fists has +1 attack, so it's a 5-4-4-8, which is kind of a huge damage profile, actually. Like, things are scared of running into a 5-4-4-8. It's really, really good. So is that extra attack that you're getting worth that range attack? And I think it is, and the reason being is that nets exist and disruption exists in this game. And if you're playing the top of an event, you need some kind of an answer to something just running into you, netting you, and you sitting there and doing nothing for a turn. I mean, we've seen it countless times. Things like a Mega Boss, things like a Tyrant, all those big things are very, very susceptible to nets. True Bloods are real common where we're playing, so I don't want the Storm Fiend to just be auto-netted and then he's useless. So having that range attack profile, I think, is very, very useful for flexibility if it does hit his damage efficiency somewhat. So that's why we're bringing it. I think it's the right call, maybe, but we will see. We will see exactly how that goes. Lastly, we have the wildcard option, Nighthaunt. I know what you're going to say, Nighthaunt garbage. Blah. I've been playing them a lot recently. I have a very sizable Nighthaunt army. Look, here's one of them. I have problems showing green models, but that's the way it is. But I've been testing them. We've been playing in the casual league. Yes. I know it's not competitive, but the players are still very good. It went 3-1 in the April casual league, which I was very happy at. Aside from that, I think I'm something like 7-2 games. So 7 wins, 2 losses out of everything that I've been playing with this list in Nighthaunt. So I'm really happy with it. I think I could pilot to it to a 3-1 win, maybe even a 4-0, possibly, depending on what I play against. So it's on the table. Let's put it that way. Now, what are we bringing? I've talked about this a little bit before in my Nighthaunt video. The link's up there. Really check it out. I go through all of the new options and how they're going to play. But you'll see a lot of Divine Blessings going on, a lot of flexible blessings going on. That's how this warband kind of shines. I've been looking at using Frightful Touch along with the Destroyer Remark to try and maximize as much damage as possible. So for that, we're going to take the Hellwraith. I've talked already about strong shooting pieces, things like Quiet Pock, things like the Arbalester, and the Horns of Hashut Flamethrower. That's where the Hellwraith comes in. The Hellwraith, when it uses Frightful Touch, goes to a 5-3-4-4 damage profile. If it has the Blessing of Strength, a 5-4-4-4 damage profile. That is massive. It's also got range 2, and it's got 10-inch move. Bear that in mind. What does that mean? Turn 1, 10 inches up the board, into Quiet Pock's face, attacks Pock. It has enough damage to kill Pock. It's got enough damage to kill an Arbalester. It's got enough damage to kill a Flamethrower if it needs to on turn 1. And that is absolutely huge. If my opponent doesn't have any of that, it looks at the squishiest deployment group possible, runs into its face, ties up that entire deployment group with its big old base. I've never been disappointed with the Hellwraith. I think it's got just the right amount of stats. It's got just the right amount of wounds. And that move is great, and it's got fly, so it can basically go anywhere that it wants to. If it gets in trouble, it can disengage, fly away, and that's it. The thing still has the hero remark, so it still has the ability to resurrect things. So I'm very happy with the Hellwraith, and I'm going to be testing it a lot more. That's why it's in there, specifically as a meta pick to what I think could come in. Secondly, we're going to be using the Wielder of the Blade. He's going to get the Blessing of Ferocity for +1 attack. He's just a very solid fighter, 3-5-3-6 damage profile. Again, he can use Frightful Touch to go to a 3-5-6-6 damage profile, which is massive. He swings for 12 wounds. He swings twice, and he's doing 24 wounds. You do not want to end your turn in combat with the Wielder of the Blade, who still has the ability to fight at you with a triple. He will murder you. He has a double, which is a free move, allows him to get that damage in there more reliably. He has Resurrect. He has everything that you need out of a 200-point hero. Very, very good. Finally, we're going to talk about Spirit Hosts. I'm running 2 of them because I think with the new Frightful Touch, they go to a 7-3-3-3 damage profile, which is ridiculous. If they ever get to attack twice, doing 3/3 damage, they will rip through most things. You've seen it here. Mostly we're looking at either the Blessing of Strength or the Blessing of Savagery on things like my Hellwraith and my Spirit Hosts. Reason for that, you want Strength if you're going against majority Toughness 3 or Toughness 4 fighters, or you want Savagery if you're going against Toughness 5 or more, something like Stormcast. Because if you're going to be winning on 5s, and you're going to be swinging twice for 14 attacks, with a 4/4 damage profile, it's a lot of damage, okay? It's a lot of damage on the Spirit Hosts, it's a lot of damage on the Hellwraith, so that's the real reason why they're there. As a side note, Spirit Hosts with 28 wounds for only 170 points, I think is a very good deal. It was a good deal before, it's still a very good deal now, so that's why we are looking at them and that's why we are taking them. As a reminder, if you absolutely need to, everybody has the Nighthaunt double, which allows them to go -1 strength on the target fighter for the rest of the turn. So if you really need to, and you need to survive, especially if they are only strength 5 or strength 4, push them down to strength 4 or strength 3, suddenly they'll be doing a lot less damage. This is more important on things like those shooting fighters who like to boost their strength, and the Nighthaunt double, as a reminder, works on the strength of their attack actions as a whole, not just on melee or shooting attack actions, which makes it very unique in that sense. Finally, we are going to round out the warband with 3 chain rasps. 70 points is very good value. Again, we're looking at a 7-man warband here, so you have to kind of use your chain rasps properly. Despite their toughness 4, they will not last forever, they only have 8 wounds, but you do have access to resurrect, so you can kind of outwither your opponent that way. Some of your pieces are fairly tanky, so yeah, I think this warband, it's been doing pretty well, and I quite like it. We'll see how it goes. I think it needs more testing, but it is definitely on the table for end of June. Alright, and that's it from me for today. Thank you very much for watching. Tell me, what do you think? Which one of these 3 warbands do you think I should take? I am leaning more towards Skaven because I've done a lot of conversion work with them, and I really like the warband, the way it looks. Thematically, the way it is. I will put up more pictures of that probably in my community tab sometime soon. But I think either of these 3 warbands at least has some opportunity to win a whole bunch of games. I'm really looking forward to testing more of that Nighthaunt, but we'll see how that goes. If you like what you see and you want more stuff like this, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and let me know down in the comment section below what you think about these 3 options. If you have any interesting builds for either of these 3 factions, that's something that I would definitely like to hear. Write in there what you think I should take, and maybe if the votes align that way. In fact, I know exactly what's going to happen. You're going to say bring Nighthaunt, because you guys are rabid for more Nighthaunt content. So ask me anyway, and we'll see what happens. Maybe I do some more testing with Nighthaunt. Maybe I come up with a different build. I've been testing Vargulfs recently. They've been doing pretty good, and I think that combined with Nighthaunt could be something. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. But anyway, thank you very much for watching. As always, I've been Nighthaunt, this has been off Meta Musings, and I will see you next time.